All rise. District Court 6 now in session. Honorable Euerdictus Pre Judice presiding.
You may be seated.
Your Honor, we wish to present the state versus Simon, son of Jonah, Levi, Jonah, James, Zacchaeus, Mary of Magdala, et al. In absentia.
And just precisely, Mr. Prosecutor, how many have been arraigned in this matter?
Frankly, Your Honor, we are not sure. The crime was perpetrated under the cover of darkness. Therefore, the exact identities of the accused are unsure at this juncture.
It is not my intention to initiate some form of cross-examination of yourself at this point. However, how can you, Mr. Prosecutor, presume to bring forth evidence about persons whose identity it would appear you have little or no hard facts about?
May I ask you to bear with me, Your Honor? The charges will be made clear in due course. The facts of this case are sound and firm.
I will withhold judgment on that opinion, Mr. Prosecutor. I am far from convinced. Be forewarned, sir. The burden of proof in this matter lies with you. I will not tolerate any sorry tactics, nor theatrics in my courtroom.
Your Honor, I can assure you, neither are planned.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. And who then will represent the defense?
I, Your Honor, Sensibilis Horatius, will represent the defendants. I wish to begin by introducing a motion to quash the charges against my clients.
You're wasting no time, are you, Counselor? Although I do admit to some discomfort in the side of the proposition, let me also tell you that before you have any motion to quash the charges against your clients at first, a reading of those charges should be made.
Theft of a cadaver, Your Honor.
Body snatching?
Yes, Your Honor.
A heinous crime. The sanctity of the remains of the departed is unquestioned throughout all jurisprudence. The bridge between normal mankind and that those who would perpetrate such an act is the same that separates us from the animals. On what warped opinion did the perpetrators feel justified in this travesty?
The person whose body was stolen was none other than the leader of this group, this cult, Jesus of Nazareth.
Cadaver nullis in bonis. The law very clearly states, no man can have a right to a property in a corpse.
These people, this cult, these so-called followers of the way, surely Your Honor knows they have no scruples, no belief in the law. Do they not in fact state that their leader status makes them no longer subject to the law?
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is grandstanding, making statements which are purely conjecture, hearsay evidence with no proof as to the validity of his statements. The words of the prosecutor are without question defamatory towards my clients. He set the tone of this trial with never so much as a shred of proof of any statement made so far.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, Counselor. However, let me also inform you that we are still in the process of discovery. The trial has not begun, nor has the jury been called to the bar. So please spare the objections until the actual indictment is read and preliminaries have been disposed of.
But Your Honor...
And no buts. I'll hold the two of you both in contempt of this court if you continue these unacceptable tactics in my courtroom. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Prosecutor.
It was not I who...
Mr. Prosecutor, have I made myself clear? Or do I need to be more firm with you, sir?
No, sir. I understand, sir.
Very well, then. Let's none of us have any lapse of memory in that regard. Now then, Mr. Prosecutor, what evidence do you intend to bring before this court?
The state will prove that the defendants did, on or about the evening hours of Saturday, make their way to this tomb of this Jesus of Nazareth and that they waited until the guards who were at the tomb had fallen asleep, likely by being drugged by the defendants. And then they rolled the stone from the door of the tomb and they stole the body.
Your Honor, the prosecution has fabricated this entire saga. I demand to see the proof of their theory. Not hearsay, not concocted evidence, not circumstantial evidence, and not opinion evidence. Until such time as the prosecution can bring forward material evidence in this matter, we can consider this nothing more than malicious prosecution aimed to injure and harm the followers of the way. I insist to see either proof or a prompt apology. And furthermore, I must insist that
That
you
will
call
be
a mistrial
sufficient.
at once.
That will be sufficient, Counselor. I can't honestly say that I disagree with some of your comments, but let me also tell you to leave the authority for decision making where it ought to belong, that being with the bench. Now then, Mr. Prosecutor, are we nearing the time when conjecture will give way to solid evidence, or do I have to consider other options?
I have here, Your Honor, depositions from 3 of the guards who were at the tomb of Jesus of Nazareth. These depositions confirm the drugging of the guards and thereafter the removal of the body from the tomb.
May I ask why depositions and not appearances in person? And why depositions from only 3 guards? Why were not the other soldiers asked for explanations? And how can the soldiers make claim to being drugged, falling asleep, and yet somehow aware that the body was being stolen?
As my learned friend knows all too well, Rome frequently requests that their soldiers be moved about. There is nothing unusual in this. And as for the explanation, why offer the same from a legion of soldiers? We thought 3 to be quite sufficient. As to whether or not the guards would be aware of what was going on around them in their drug state, please read these depositions made by respected members of the Roman armed forces.
Your Honor, how can you accept such frivolous opinion evidence? In the absence of any material evidence, I must insist that you quash these proceedings immediately.
I have to agree with the counsel for the defense. Mr. Prosecutor, if you have no further material evidence, I see no
Material
other
evidence, you ask? It is my pleasure to provide the most certifiable of material witnesses, an amicus curiae.
An amicus curiae, a friend of the court, you say? Just who may be this friend of the court?
Ah, this is the great leader of the Sanhedrin, the much beloved Caiaphas himself.
Your Honor, how can we accept this statement from the very man responsible for bringing about the death of Jesus of Nazareth? Caiaphas, an amicus curiae, a friend of the court? I think not. A friend of the Romans, maybe, not this court.
Counselor, I will ask you to retract that statement and warn you that any further libelous outburst such as that will place you in contempt. Do I make myself clear?
Your Honor, how can you?
I said that is sufficient. I am not willing to accept Caiaphas as an amicus curiae. However, if he is willing to attend this court as a witness, the bench sees no objection on that behalf. That being the case, I ask the clerk of this court to bring forth the jurors so that we can begin proceeding in this trial. Just before the jurors arrive, let me warn each of you, and particularly you, Mr. Prosecutor, I will not accept any shoddy tactics or theatrics from either of you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been sworn in. Please be seated.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in serving in this very important way. Yours is a most important role, judging contrary arguments, sifting through sometimes conflicting evidence, trying to determine what's right from wrong. I wanted, right from the outset, to tell you that in all matters of deliberation, that you must be guided by the time-honored principle of reasonable doubt. If there is with any one of you reasonable doubt that the accused are guilty, then it is incumbent upon you to find them not guilty. But if you are 100% sure or have a reasonable conclusion that these accused are guilty, then you can entertain a guilty verdict. That being said, Mr. Prosecutor, You may begin.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I will be brief. This case requires no great deliberation. The facts which I will point out to you now require no great balancing in point of law. And in line with what His Honor has just told you, it is your duty to judge based on reasonable doubt. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there is no doubt, reasonable or otherwise, that the accused are guilty as charged.
Objection, Your Honor. The prosecution is not presenting evidence, only spouting empty speculation. Your Honor...
Sustained. The prosecutor is wearing at my nerves. You will restrict yourself to introduction of evidence. The jury will disregard the statement made by the prosecutor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have in my hand exhibits A, B, and C. Legally obtained depositions by the guards who were at the tomb of the crucified criminal Jesus of Nazareth.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection, says the defense. Is my learned friend about to deny that this very same Jesus of Nazareth was found guilty just last week and that he was duly and legally put to death on a cross for the said crimes? I repeat, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have here in my hand exhibits A, B, and C, legally obtained depositions from 3 of the guards who was at the tomb of the crucified criminal, Jesus of Nazareth. And oh, ladies and gentlemen, I will present to you a witness, the greatly respected and beloved leader of our Sanhedrin, Caiaphas. And Caiaphas will confirm the doubt involved in this case and the guilt of the defendants.
Mr. Prosecutor, you've gone too far this time. If you wish to provide Caiaphas as a witness here, I have no objection to it. But you will not provide unsubstantiated evidence on his or anyone else's behalf. Do I make myself clear, sir?
As you wish, Your Honor. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is the charge with which these defendants stand here guilty?
Objection.
Withdrawn, Your Honor, and with my apologies. What I meant to say was, what is the charge that brings this group of persons? Here is a crime so heinous, so perverse, as to make the blood of any decent person curdle within him. What is the charge? What is the charge? Theft of a cadaver, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Body snatching. But we now know that such a crime would bring righteous people such as yourselves, I dare say, to the point of knowing that these people who stand here are guilty. But we would do well in noting that these, the accused, are in no way righteous followers of their leader, Jesus of Nazareth, who was found guilty by both a Roman court and a Jewish court.
Objection, Your Honor. Objection.
Sustained! Sustained! The prosecution will immediately go to introduction of evidence or make a claim against the accused. Immediately.
Very well, Your Honor. That we shall do immediately. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case so offends all decent folk that its very presence in our midst spreads forth a putrid smell. Body snatchers. What a vile, corrupting thought. The leader of this cult, the one called the King of the Jews, was himself nothing more than a zealot who broke every law and disturbed the peace in our land and corrupted others with his self-proclaimed illusions of godliness.
Objection.
Sustained.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this sordid affair brings discredit to our entire nation, lowering the standards of all who call this land our home. The criminal, Jesus of Nazareth, is dead, as he should be. The time has now come for healing in our land.
Your Honor, my colleague has showered calumny on my clients. May I ask leave to proceed to prove their status?
In fairness to this court and considering the allegations heard by the jury, I would first like to know who the accused are.